The Suicide Squad, the greatest comic book movie of all time. Zack Snyder Justice League, Wonder Woman 2. No, it's all about James Gunn and The Suicide Squad. After misfire and misfire and misfire, have DC finally gone and made a groundbreaking superhero movie? No, not really. It seemed too good a story to be true. You know, they hire one of the most acclaimed Marvel superhero film directors and puts him into the equivalent of DC's Guardians of the Galaxy, like the misfit bunch kind of thing. And what he just fixes the god-awful trash that was Suicide Squad in 2016. In a manner of speaking. Now, it's not to say that this was a bad film. It was actually a very enjoyable film. However, it's a film that I'm a little bit torn on, because the things that really hit me emotionally in a film are the things that I talk about. The idea of it being a good narrative, having good character development, and a satisfying ending. This film didn't really touch on a lot of that. There were some elements of those three things in it, but I found that I enjoyed this film because of reasons other than those three, in which case I didn't really see it as an amazing movie as much as I saw it as just a roller coaster ride that I enjoyed. I guess if I want to turn my brain off and watch something and not think too hard, this is one of those movies I'll put on. What exactly am I talking about? Let's start with the narrative. Does it have a groundbreaking narrative? God, no. The plot of the film basically sums up to a, hey guys, there's something in that building that we need to get, let's break in. And that's pretty much it. If you were to remove the overall aspect of there being a story in this film, you know, delete it from your head that the purpose of this film is to tell a story, then you might actually enjoy this film anyway, because it was very much a showcase of new DC characters that haven't really been shown yet. Characters like Idris Elba's Bloodsport, John Cena's Peacemaker, and Polka Dot Man. They're all these people that haven't really had a lot of mainstream showing, so it's very nice to see new characters that you can fall in love with, and they become more famous than they may already be right now because of the way these actors portray them on screen. It also seemed like a good chance for a bunch of very high profile actors like Idris Elba, Margot Robbie, John Cena, and David to basically put their own spin on a character that doesn't have a lot of mainstream showing and have fun. The chemistry between the cast was very, very well done. The ensemble is absolutely brilliant because you've got a lot of really good high profile actors just having a blast on screen. When the actors are having that kind of fun, there's no way that you yourself don't feel like you're having fun. So was the narrative bad? Yes. Did this film actually need a good narrative? No. There's actually no tie-in with the overall DC Extended Universe, and it's a blessing in disguise because even Warner Brothers themselves don't know what the DC Extended Universe is right now. They seem to be half in, half out on which movies are actually canon and which ones are alternate universes. This one might as well definitely be alternate universe, especially with the idea of Superman getting shot by a kryptonite bullet. When did that happen in this extended universe? At what point did that happen? Fact of the matter is, it's not an important question because it doesn't matter. It's not canon, which makes the film that much more enjoyable to watch. You can 100% see that it's a James Gunn film, a James Gunn directed film, because of things like style of comedy. The pacing of this film was good. There was not one dull moment. It was just one action scene to the next action scene to a comedy scene to the next action scene, and it just kept on going like that. Choice of music is something that we all know James Gunn is really good at. I know people will bring up Guardians of the Galaxy as, wow, what an amazing soundtrack, but for me it'll always be the Scooby-Doo soundtrack. Wait, did he direct Scooby-Doo? No, he wrote it. Still a good film. Idris Elba, John Cena, and David aside, what about the returning cast? Not a lot of people from the original film made it through, but the ones that did make it through include Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, Viola Davis's Amanda Waller, and Jai Courtney's Captain Boomerang. These characters still portray their mannerisms from the initial Suicide Squad film. Amanda Waller is still a cold-hearted, won't think twice about needing to make a tough call, because for her it's not even tough kind of characteristic. Harley Quinn still has her crazy moments, like giving sad monologues after she's just shot someone, kind of crazy. And Jai Courtney's Captain Boomerang died within the first 10 minutes, so make of that what you will. Having said that, the combined screen time and overall connection to whatever little narrative the film had, these characters played a very small amount. The best thing about these kind of ensemble films is the idea that these people play off each other, so you need a lot of face-to-face screen time for that to work, and Viola Davis doesn't get a lot of that because she's the Overwatch, you know, she's the oversight. She sits in the headquarters giving commands through a phone. While she still stands out on her own and portrays the character of Amanda Waller really well. She's ultimately not the memorable part of this film. And Margot Robbie, who me personally I enjoyed a lot in Birds of Prey, she had been finally given the chance to showcase Harley Quinn as that batshit crazy character. She was ultimately forgettable in this film because this film wasn't really about her. She only really grouped up with the rest of the cast in the last third of the film, which is a shame because Idris Elba, John Cena and
David Dastmalkin.
Their chemistry early on in the film was really well done. Oh wait, how am I going to forget Joel Kinnaman? No, not Rick Flag. Okay, I forgot, sorry. Joel Kinnaman as Rick Flag is also back. He is actually the only character out of the original cast that has improved character facets in this film. They gave him a little bit of a comedy aspect. They gave him a lot more, I'm not just your serious captain. You know, he can kind of be lighthearted at times as well, which add a little bit more relatability to the character. He does die in the film. I'm going to talk a little bit about that because it ties in well to the character development of one person who just absolutely came out of nowhere for me. I didn't expect him to be having any kind of character development in the film as insane as this, but we'll talk about that later. So when Rick Flag does die, you do feel it a little bit. Maybe you don't feel it in droves or whatever. Droves? Is that the word? You thought, okay, the death scene was worth it. So overall plot, not really there, but you don't watch this film for the plot. For me, this is going to be the interesting part if you're not bored by my voice already. Character development. Ultimately, two people stood out as the serious character development in this film. That is Idris Elba's Bloodsport and John Cena's Peacemaker. Specifically, John Cena's Peacemaker. And I can't believe I'm saying that when you got guys like Idris Elba on the screen with you. But we'll talk about Idris Elba's Bloodsport first. What's his name? Robert Dubois. Idris Elba plays Robert Dubois, otherwise known as Bloodsport. He's a character who at the beginning of the film is seen trying to stay away from any kind of conflict by basically doing shit detail in the prison. He does things like mop the floors and even scrub them at times, and basically does not want any part of being in Task Force X at all. However, he does have a teenage daughter who keeps getting in trouble, and Amanda Waller threatens to have her put into prison unless Bloodsport joins the mission, which of course he does because as distanced as he is from his daughter, he still cares about her. So over the course of the film, where they're trying to break into a guarded tower in Corto Maltese to retrieve a weapon of some sort, his character arc is basically going from a father who doesn't want to be a father, from a father who actually cares about his child. Now, while ultimately there isn't a lot of payoff for the relationship between Bloodsport and his actual daughter, he picks up a surrogate daughter in the film, Cleo Cazo, otherwise known as Ratcatcher 2, portrayed by Daniela Melchior. Why are there so many difficult names in this film? She's known as Ratcatcher 2 because the original Ratcatcher was her dad, portrayed by Taika Waititi. It's the idea of regret over the fact that you couldn't have spent more time with the one you love. And it comes out in different forms. For Ratcatcher, it comes out in basic grief, and she takes on the persona of her dad because that's the only connection she now has with him after he died. And with Bloodsport, it's because he was in the game of being a soldier and being the best, and to the point where he off-screen has shot Superman with a kryptonite bullet, and he ends up in jail because of it, thus robbing himself of the time that he could be spending with his daughter, and ultimately letting his daughter go down a path of crime, and ultimately it's his fault. He also has resentment towards his daughter's mother and doesn't want to have anything to do with her, and maybe by extension doesn't want to have anything to do with his daughter, but he learns to appreciate what he has and what type of dad he's capable of being by the end of the film. It's not the most original idea, the idea of a father figure who doesn't want to be a father figure learning to appreciate the fact that he can be a good dad if he tries. You see something similar. I'm pretty sure I had that similar kind of theme in Awake, my first Any Good Movie review. So if you guys seen that, you basically know what I'm talking about when I say about the idea of a parent trying to redeem him or herself. But at the end of the day, you feel for the character for a multitude of reasons. Number one for me being because it's Idris Elba and he portrays that kind of character so believably because of the way he carries himself as an actor. There's not a lot of people that can pull it off in a way that'll make you say, okay, I actually care about it. Even though I've seen it multiple times, I still care. But he does it. Now onto the actual thing that surprised me. And you've heard me say it already, but I'm going to say it again. John Cena's Peacemaker. Now, everybody knows about the way that he was told to go about it by James Gunn. He was basically told to play a douchey, bro-y Captain America. Peacemaker is very, very true to his name in this film. He is a character. His real name is Christopher Smith, with a very, very comics accurate costume, and he has one of the most ridiculous comic costumes I've ever seen. I'm looking at it right now and it's absolutely daft and bizarre, and they recreate it almost to the T in the film, and the film's better for it. Now, up until now, I've always rated John Cena as one of the better actors to have left from wrestling. He basically, for me, so far goes hand in hand with Dave Bautista, because given the right director and right circumstance and right situation, he can act the way he's supposed to. Up until now, I'm glad that they basically portray characters that are either parodies of themselves or the anti-version of themselves. I've never been a fan of wrestlers who basically just go and play a version of themselves in film, because a respectable quality about actors that I personally am drawn to is the idea that they push themselves to do things that they haven't done before. If they seem to be getting too comfortable, you're basically just seeing the actor portray himself on screen, which isn't really what you want to do. It's a little bit hot and cold, that kind of subject. I see a lot of the people, I've talked to a lot of people about this view on how actors portray their characters, and the one thing I get hit back with a lot is actors like Robert Downey Jr., who has the same kind of mannerisms with every character he portrays. If you look at his portrayal as Tony Stark and you look at his character in The Zodiac, there are those little mannerisms, the fast talking, the sometimes pausing, and the way he hangs on certain words as opposed to others. You see Tony Stark everywhere. Now, my argument for that is it's not necessarily an extension of yourself if it's just mannerisms, because they can be manipulated into basically showing when you are in anger or in fear or in regret or in sorrow or in happiness. There's layers of vulnerability to it, and if a character is portrayed to be vulnerable sometimes, you care that much more about the character. If the character's life is in danger, you want that character to get out of there alive. You don't be like, well, I don't need to care that this person's going to die or not, because I know he's not going to die, or I know she's not going to die because he or she never dies in films or whatever. It's the problem I have with actors like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who portray Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson type characters in almost every film. The hero that ultimately will always one up the villain and win, because it's The Rock. You look at The Rock, he's not going to be a character that's vulnerable in films ever, because it's not something I would ever take seriously. And then you got someone like John Cena, who's basically been the Superman of the WWE for God knows how many years at this point. You know, he always fights rises above hate and fights against the odds and always comes out on top. But he portrays a character in this film so blinded for the quest to find justice and to find peace that he becomes a full-fledged villain by the end of the film. And yet it's a villain that you can sympathize with. And this is John Cena I'm talking about, okay? How does that make any kind of sense? It just blows my mind that I'm that hooked onto a character that's portrayed by John Cena at this point. It's the only other thing I can equate this to is when I first saw Guardians of the Galaxy and how much I was in love with Drax by the end of it, because someone like Batista should not be getting thrown around by someone like Ronan the Accuser, but you see it and you're like, oh damn, he's gonna kill him, or it's like, oh damn, he's got Batista cornered. Like, maybe it's hard for me to put it into words, but it's the idea that I just did not expect these characters to be this vulnerable, because I never expected the actors to be able to portray someone that vulnerable. It just did not occur to me that it would ever happen. Okay, I'm rambling a little bit here, but my basic point is this. The joke earlier on is made that Peacemaker claims that he would eat an island full of certain phallic objects if it meant it would achieve peace. I remember being in the cinema, people just laughing at it, and I was like, this is hilarious. But then you get to a scene at the end where Peacemaker fights Rick Flag, because Rick Flag comes in possession of a hard drive that has evidence of America's involvement in illegal experiments on humans, and Rick Flag wants to release it to the public so that everybody knows the truth, but Peacemaker wants to destroy it as per Amanda Waller's orders, because he thinks releasing it will disrupt the peace. And he fights and kills Rick Flag just to achieve that quest. That's what being the Peacemaker means to Christopher Smith in this film. He will kill his own people if it means keeping the peace. He almost kills Ratcatcher too, after she has the drive as well. She's like a teenager. I'm pretty sure she's like a young girl, and he was about to kill her if it wasn't for Bloodsport at the end. And it's a line that stuck with me when Ratcatcher asked something like, why do you have to kill me? And Peacemaker says, I'm thorough. It means that he will literally make sure there are no loose ends on the path to peace. He will kill anyone if it means keeping the peace. And considering the character started off very comical at the beginning, I wasn't expecting to be hit with that level of seriousness. The argument to be made here is that the tonal shift might be jarring to some people. While maybe in some moments it felt jarring, you then look back and reflect on the film and you realize that they were teasing it the whole time. They were made in jokes, but the overall story behind all the jokes was he will do anything for peace. And he's getting his own TV show now, where I think he'll be playing the same kind of like psychopath bent on peace kind of thing, which would be amazing. I'm all for it. I'm definitely going to watch it. That kind of character development caught me off guard so much that I was like, I wasn't expecting it. The film was so batshit insane up until that point that I wasn't expecting it to get that deep, and it did, and I loved it. John's like the same way Yelena Belova in Black Widow was like the thing out of nowhere that came and took me by surprise. John Cena's Peacemaker has gone and done the same thing. So yeah, aspects of character there were aspects of character development in this film. It wasn't really the focal point of the film, but it's the only thing that I've really taken away from the film, thinking I would watch this film again just to see were there any more teases that Peacemaker was going to be evil the whole time or something like that. Now, did this film have a satisfying ending? Yeah, sure. They break into the tower to find the secret weapon. We find out it's a giant starfish. If you know Star of the Conqueror from the comics, then yippee for you. I wasn't really all too bothered. I was like, a giant starfish, that's pretty insane. But then again, this film is insane. Starfish breaks out, sends a bunch of those egg things from Rick and Morty, except they're starfishes. You know, they latch onto the face and people start turning into zombies or whatever. I'm pretty sure Rick and Morty stole that from somewhere as well, but then again, this film is stolen from that, which is stolen from that. You know, everybody steals. There's nothing original in movies these days. It didn't have a gut punch ending, or like an ending that like left you thinking at the end, because like I said, this film's not about the plot. It was just there for you to have fun. So it even ends on a comical note more than anything else, with Bloodsport stroking a rat, because the entire film he has had a phobia of rats. There's a deeper meaning to that as well, regarding how Robert Dubois was raised by his dad, but it's a very subtle kind of backstory, which does well for the comical ending that makes you say, oh, he's finally overcome his fear or whatever, but it's not as deep. And if you watch the film, you realize that it wasn't meant to be a big deal, really. I mean, they defeat the alien, I guess. We all knew it was going to happen. There was some weird prophecy thing where a character at the beginning of the film who dies gives his spear to Harley Quinn and says, you need to use it for something, and she was the whole film was like, what do I use it for? What do I use it for? And it was to defeat the alien at the end. Yeah, I didn't really care, I'm not gonna lie. That thing could have died in a multitude of ways. It was like an ending which was like, yeah, alright, sure. It was fun. Very much like a roller coaster that has a lot of like ups and downs and loop-de-loops, but then at the end it doesn't really do anything amazing. It just kind of slows down and you're like, okay, the ride was good at least. You don't really think about the roller coaster going slow at the end, not really. Yeah, you know, I'm not going to talk about satisfying ending a lot, because it was satisfying in the idea that it wasn't paying off anything. It was time for the film to end, basically. So, was the film any good? One of the better DC films that have been released, but at the same time, I wouldn't put it above like the first Wonder Woman, which had that kind of emotional grit that I really like. So this film, while it was still fun, I would still give it like a 3 out of 5, because it had elements of a film where you want to have fun by switching off your brain and just looking at the funny people say funny things and watching the gore and the violence, and it gives you that. It's not a film that I would go watch in cinema a second time, but I would 100% put it on at home just to like have a laugh with some family or some friends. I know in my first movie review I said I was going to review Wanted, and I've done Black Widow and I've done The Suicide Squad now, but in all honesty I'm trying to review films that have just come out because I'm trying to get a little bit of traction on this channel, and they're films that I have seen for the first time, and I love superhero films and I'm just really desperate to talk about them. I am going to try and do Wanted for my next one, because it was a film that I really enjoyed, and like I said, like I imagine I said, I love James McAvoy, so James McAvoy film, I would like to talk about it. Okay, that's it for me. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Recommend me some movies, actually. That'd be really cool. Recommend me a movie to watch. If I haven't seen it, I'll do a review on it after I've seen it. Ideally, I want to do movies that I don't have a lot of personal attachment to. After having seen them for a couple of years, I want to do something brand new so I can talk about it and give my impulse reactions as well. And if you want to see more of this kind of content regularly, please subscribe to this channel, because I want the channel to grow. I'm having so much fun doing this. Please God, I work a 12-hour shift. I don't enjoy it. This is fun. I want to do more of this. Please roll the credits.